Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 29 of the Run to the Hills podcast. My name's Gary, and welcome to my host, Eddie Sutton. How are you doing, Eddie?
Good, thank you. As you were talking, I was looking at my very alpine, not only my plaits, the hairstyle, but the rouge of my cheeks that only are going to get more rouge as we talk this afternoon. Sorry, everybody.
Is that sunshine again?
Today, it was not sunshine. It was epic hail, snow, wind. And I tried to just brush the front of my hair because I had it in a helmet all morning to make it look like, we're just having some renovations done on our house here. So if you hear some banging, you're just going to have to go with it because that's life, isn't it? You know, life's got to carry on. Yeah. And so we've got no water during the day. And you don't realize how much you, especially when you're training, how much you like, I go to like, oh God, I'm so thirsty. We feel like saucepans and I'm getting a bit angsty in the morning now. I'm filling up all the saucepans. But because I normally do multiple sessions during the day, I am a like 2 shower, let's not lie, 1 shower a day.
1 shower.
1 shower a day. But it's got a couple of days. They turn the water back on when they go, but then it's like the kids and I'm really, really busy. And then it gets to like 9 o'clock. I'm like, it's all right. Bit of a wet wipe. We'll be all right. Apologies if you're looking.
The commando shower.
You don't have to smell me.
Do you recycle your clothes?
Oh my God. I just hang them on the door.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm not often training with a lot of people. So if I'm not going to see anyone, I'm like, just wear them. I got 3 kids as well. The laundry is epic. So I'm like, kids, you wear the same clothes. I do this cunning thing. They only have a drawer of clothes each. Here's a top parenting hack for you. Or you newbie mums and dads. Don't buy them lots of clothes. They have 2 pairs of trousers, some t-shirts, a couple of jumpers each. That's it. So there's no choice in the morning because in France they don't have school uniform. So they always just wear. So the boys just want to be in tracksuits, and actually, Evie just wants to be in leggings or trousers anyway. Because we're in snow as well. So you just have 1 drawer of clothes. So they have to wear the same clothes till I go, oh no, someone might comment on that t-shirt now. And during the winter anyway, they're in thermals because they're skiing. Yeah, they look like pajamas most of the time, and then they've got the ski stuff over it. So I'm like, get another day out of that. That's hardly seen fresh air.
I don't seem to be able to smell anything.
Let's not talk about my slack hygiene and parenting anymore now. Let's talk about your running.
Lisa picks me up. Sometimes I might smell a bit funky, and I don't smell it. But Lisa will be like, maybe you should.
Do you find though? Now I've had the same. I don't like to buy new sports kit unless I'm really aware much more in the last few years about buying new kit and really wearing stuff out, but especially my like thermal long sleeve layers, I put them on and they're clean and I wear them, but as they warm up I'm going, and I've got this gilet I wear all winter running. I like to have free arms, but obviously it's freezing, and I put that on and I'm out. I'm sometimes like, my God, who is that? Someone.
I can't smell anything. Literally my smell is terrible.
We could be good training partners, because sometimes if I run with mates, they're like, oh my God, Eddie, I can smell you. Let's change the subject. I'm not enjoying this. Tell us about your running. You smashed your 5K and 10K.
I did. They went really well, thanks. It was a threshold effort. My goodness me, 10K. The 5K is fine. But to do,
because once you start a 5K, you're counting down. You're working through it, but you look at a 10K and you're like, oh my dear Lord.
But Garmin was messing with me, and sometimes with Garmin, if you're under like tree coverage, it kind of throws it off a little bit. So you look down your watch and you think, oh my goodness, I'm 20 seconds down on that pace. But then you pick it up, but then when you kind of come away into a clearing, all of a sudden you're kind of doing a mile too fast, because the algorithms are catching up with itself.
I don't often find that when I'm running a minute 2 miles too fast.
Well, it's already fudged anyway, but overall the pace was fine. The effort was fine. And it was all downhill. So I had to turn around and run. At the end of the run, I had a 6 mile slow shuffle up the hill.
Oh, that's a
it's not a hill.
Did you have a gel or something to get you back home?
I had something on me. I didn't take it. I did. I took something with me. And the 5K was good too, but it was into a headwind until we turned, and that was fantastic. But the first half you were doing, say, 6.5 minute mile, and but then you turned and there were just sub 6, like 5:55 or something, and it was the same effort. It was brilliant. So we did it. We got it done. And what about yourself? I've seen some lovely snow pictures on your
snow. It's just the snow. It's just the snow is back. I had a trail run on the weekend with my youngest pup, and that felt good. But gosh, it's so funny because I haven't run on anything but snow.
Yeah.
Since November, and so then running on trail with your ankles moving a bit, I was a bit like it's like, I've got some work to do on the old ankles and the calves.
Yeah.
So I did a bit more running last week than I perhaps should have, because I knew then we've just had, this morning, anyone that skis, they're going to hate this, but I was up to my waist in snow. I may have overdone it slightly. If I fall asleep or I need to stretch my quads slightly, it was so deep. So it was a bit ridiculous. It was too deep, really, because it took me so long to kick through the snow to get uphill.
Yeah.
I was like, and I could see 2 guys ahead of me, and I crept up on them, and I got them. They were like, "Oh, thank God you're here, because now you can go."
Yes.
You can go and kick all the snow. So that was hard. And then the skis down was so deep that normally you can sort of like almost recover, like a bit like a nice descent, and you like can ski down. I have a little drink, take some Instagram stories, and that's normally like the funnest bit. But today it was so deep, and you'd either get stuck because it's so deep, or the last bit, I'd met up with some mates and they just watched me. Because I had to have a little lie down halfway down the last bit because my legs were just cooked. But they very kindly waited and laughed as I said, I'd have a little lie down and then I'll be skiing down. But so this week I'm just going to ski. I entered another race to make up for and it got cancelled yesterday again. So I'm just going to, okay, I'm going to just go with what is being thrown at me. At the moment, we've got so much snow, so I'm just going to carry on skiing and not worry. I've got 2 key running sessions to do. Yeah, loads of snow for the next 2 weeks.
All right.
So I'm like, well, it's fine. There's no races. I'm just going to, why stress about it? I'm just going to carry on skiing and just enjoy being out, improving my skiing every time I ski, and just got to be patient, haven't you? And not to be like, oh, disappointment again.
You mentioned ankles. Do you do anything specific for ankle exercise?
Well, I do a lot of calf, one-legged stuff and calf mobility in the winter because your lower limb is in a boot. So it's it's holding it really still. And you're doing that like up and down to go up and down. And then you're sort of sitting back. Try not to sit back in the powder coming down. So I do a lot of calf raises and calf stretches, and some wobble board stuff to try and keep the ankles going.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't think you can replicate it quite. You just have to be really, last couple of weeks when I was adding a bit more running, I was saying to myself, you're getting a bit greedy, Eddie, because you can't bring that running back up when you've been skiing because you've got to let the body, let the ankles and everything, the calves, remember how to work. So when I go back again and put in a bit more running, I just need to be patient, which is...
I used to do a little, at the end of the run, I'm kind of got lazy on it now, but it was some ankle drills. So I'd walk maybe 10 on each step on, say, tiptoes. Then I'd do another 10 on my heels. Then I'd do another 10 with my kind of pigeon toe style, and then 10 like a Charlie Chaplin, I suppose. Like
really good.
Yeah, just kind of say a couple of meters from the house and a half a mile, and then just do like a little walk in. I used to think it helped, but I've got pretty relaxed with it now.
We've got a great interview this week. Who have we been talking to this week?
Yeah, Sarah McCormack, mountain running world champ. That was 2019, but obviously nothing's happened really since then.
Still holds the title.
We had a lovely chat with Sarah. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
What a lovely lady, and so modest and unassuming, but just is what an incredible runner. When you look at her stats, I mean, I'm just so jealous that she's so smoking fast on the flat and can translate that into the ups and the downs as well.
It was nice to hear that she you'll hear in the interview, but she does do some speed work too. So that's kind of something that maybe some trail runners might ignore. So
she obviously does some really fast speed work as well.
I enjoyed it.
So if you could put all her talents into a little tea bag, mix that she's got, gosh, she can do everything. I'd be really excited to see her move into longer stuff.
Yeah.
But why would you when you're that fast and you're going out and winning races?
I think that's
all around the world.
You play to your strengths, don't you? I know even recreational runners, like now I'm kind of 47, I think. There's no way I'm going to be kind of on the toe the line of a fast 5K and thinking I'm going to do anything, but maybe on a longer run I could do maybe top 10, top 20, or good in an age group. So you play to your strengths, and there's plenty of time
when I'm doing a massive race and it's like 10 miles, everyone can hang with Eddie in 10 miles, 20 miles, everyone's still here. And then I'm like, just wait. Now as I'm getting older and I've had more kids, I have to go further and further.
I like that period in a race. Say, I quite like a trail marathon. And then around that 22 miles, sometimes trail marathons end up being 29 miles. They're not kind of consistently 26.2, but you'll slowly rein these people in, and you just kind of check them out, and you can just tell by their face if they're going to hang with you or not.
They're going to raise your game.
Sometimes I've been asked in the past how old I am. I think these kind of guys are a bit competitive, and I might be in the same age group category as them. They go, how old are you? And you can go past me now.
I love it. And I just see it out here as well, just even like skiing or running, but I love it in races where you see someone in the distance, you rein them in, you rein them in, go past them, and then they try and hang on behind you, and you hear their breathing. And that to me, I mean, that I don't know what, that's so sad, isn't it? But I love that element of racing when you're like, okay, then you're going to hang with me then now, are you? Okay, I'm going to drop it down a notch, and then
I'll do a bit of prep. I'll kind of freshen myself up, buff out, and make myself look better than how I feel. And then if I do have a chat with him, I'll say I'm doing really well.
Feeling super fresh, fresh.
Just to demoralize.
Oh man. Cool. You're such a nice guy, Gary. Right.
Anyway,
let's listen to Sarah.
Today we are having a chat with Sarah McCormack. She needs a little introduction. She is the 2019 Mountain Running World Cup champ, ecologist, running coach, dog lover, and she recently did very well over in Italy with a hat trick of wins. I also had the pleasure of sharing the trails with Sarah for a few hours last year as we supported a friend during his successful Bob Graham round attempt. Hi Sarah, how are you doing today?
Hello, I'm great, thank you. Yeah, it's lovely and sunny here, so I'm as happy as can be. Yeah, thanks for having me.
No worries. And you see here, whereabouts are you based, actually?
I'm in Windermere, and I've got two dogs who apparently haven't had enough exercise yet today, who are wrestling next to me. So apologies if they make an appearance at any point. But yeah, I'm in Windermere, and it's sun's shining, and been for a lovely run this morning.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that was the next question. Yeah, I just wondering if you'd been out for a run, and would that be, I suppose, straight out the door? You could kind of pretty much hit some pretty stunning fells. Is there like a particular favorite fell you'd kind of, you go-to fell that you'd aim for?
There's a few. I'm just going to grab this dog. Yeah, there's a few. I guess, my most local ones are the Ambleside fells.
Is that Lochrig, is it?
Yeah, Lochrig, and Langdale kind of area. So I kind of love them all, but I suppose I love Coniston, Old Man, and that kind of area for how rugged it is. And it's just, the scenery is always so striking out that area.
I know, my goodness me, the lakes are stunning. I don't know if really kind of know why I should ask this, but why the lakes? What took you to the lakes?
My mum grew up in the lakes, and so we were always coming on summer holidays here, and it was just always where I wanted to be. Always. I just said when I grow up that as soon as I can choose where I'm going to be, it's going to be the lakes. That's all I wanted.
Oh, fantastic!
And yeah, I'm really enjoying living here. We've been here almost 6 years now.
And that feels like home now, does it?
Yeah, I really feel at home because I've got family in the area, and we've got the local running club, so there's just such a great community here.
Yeah.
You're never kind of short of someone to go for a run with, which is especially nice when it's kind of the only way we can socialize at the minute.
Yeah, it's good. And have you always been active? You know, as a child, did you have an active? Was your family active? Were you kind of inspired there? Was it just normal in your family to be active?
Yeah. My mum and my granddad were both really into their fell walking and running, and my dad was into football and running. So so we grew up, just being quite active. I think one of my earliest experiences of running was with my sister, and I wound my mum up too much, and she'd tell us that we had to go run to the nearest stop sign, which was half a mile away. She'd just send us out the house, and my sister would probably be crying and I'd be running along. It was a good experience in the end. Yeah. My sister cried a lot of the time. So that was probably one of my earliest running experiences, was my mum wanting us out of the house.
And what about at school? Was that something you'd kind of do at school? Were you a member of kind of cross-country teams and stuff like that?
Yeah. I was a member of cross-country and track team, and then again at uni. And I didn't really get into fell running until I was about 22. And that was sort of a big adjustment because I wasn't really used to the hills at all. So it took me a while to improve a bit.
I love how you say that you weren't really used to the hills at all in your early 20s, and then you've gone on to be world champion. There's hope for us all yet, Gary.
Yeah.
Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what's the difference between, majority of our listeners are ultra runners, I would say. What's the difference between the mountain running that you do and the sort of longer ultra distance running that perhaps our listeners are more sort of used to doing and hearing about?
Yeah, I think mountain running, I suppose, it's sort of almost like the European style of fell running. So there's no, say, defined distance for races, but they would tend to be between maybe, well, if you've got a VK, it could be as short as 3 kilometers long. You know, if you're just running straight uphill and you finish at the top of the hill, it could just be as short as 3K. And I would say the longer races tend to be about 25K with maybe 1,500 meters of climb. So you're looking at like a 2-hour plus race kind of thing. So yeah, and then obviously ultra running is very popular in Europe as well. But I would say within mountain running, that's kind of the standard distance that you get.
What's your preferred sort of like in that mountain running niche? What's like your when you see a race? Is it like an 8K or a 20K, or is it more vert? Is it more like, oh, I love all that climbing?
I'm not really as strong on quite steep climbs. I'm still more of a better on gradual climbs. So I'll definitely do a VK, and I think they're great training. And I think I've improved at them from where I used to be. But I prefer the kind of up and down, and I like the races with a mix of everything. I tried to go back to a bit of road running just for some speed training. In 2017, I did the Reading half, and I'd just kind of forgotten how relentless road running is. You know, you really just have to know your pace and just go out and hold it, don't you? Especially in such a flat race. And they're tough. It's a real sufferfest, but I just wasn't prepared for the lack of variety. You know, in a mountain race, you can hike the steeps, and you can, you know, get the different changes in surfaces that, you know, some of them will be a bit of a break for the legs and that kind of thing, which I really enjoy. So yeah, when I've tried to dabble back into road running and found it really difficult.
Oh no.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you tell us a little bit more about last year, how that worked out, and the sort of adventures you managed to have last year, and then your sort of plans for this year as well? Start with last year.
Last year was sort of, obviously, like in the spring, didn't really have any plans, and then Sierres and Al, which is a race I'd already done the 2 previous years, announced that they were having quite a COVID secure format where you could go and run the race route any day within the space of a month, and they were having marshals at the start and the finish. So you could just basically show up on the day and time trial it. So I thought that sounded like quite a safe bet. And that was was middle of September. And then a few other races just kind of came out of the woodwork as going ahead in Italy. So my friend Louise and I managed to string together a trip. I think it was 4 weeks and 4 races. And yeah, just got out, and Sierres and Al didn't really go that well. I just got out to the Alps, and it goes up to 2,500 meters, and I just kind of I felt like a good climb, and then just absolutely like kind of crawled the last sort of 10K once we were up at the high altitude. Bit of not my best race. But I always find it such a good training stimulus that I just like race quite well after Sierres and Al, or at least the last 3 years that happened, where, you know, it didn't really go to plan any of those years, but I always come away from it feeling a lot better than I went into it. So after that, we had the Italian long distance mountain running championships, which was again that kind of 25K type mountain race. And that went a lot better. So I won that one, which was kind of a surprise. And obviously, I was delighted because I knew it was a good field, and I really wanted to be mixing it up with the front runners. But, you know, I certainly wasn't expecting a win or anything like that. So that was really exciting. And then the other two was the Italian VK championships and the Italian mountain running relay championships, which was really good fun because the atmosphere at relay races is just so exciting. It ended up being a really good trip.
Do you think you sort of almost raced yourself into good form then? You sort of went COVID half cooked and then got fitter and fitter as the races went on?
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a few local races here as well. And there was one really good format when we were only allowed to race or train in groups of 6. Jonathan Toombs, who's a local runner, set up a race series where you'd have 3 different clubs racing each other, but they'd only have 2 club members each. So we just have these fell races of 6 people out on the hills, which was really great. It was a little bit like you felt like you were really under pressure because there's only 6 people disappear into the crowd. But they were just such a good way to sharpen up, and you know, there was nothing riding on them, so they were quite low key, even though you felt like at the time you felt a bit of pressure to do well. So yeah, I think those really helped me get into shape as well.
And when you go to these European races, do you find that often the race organizer, you're a well-known name now, but I can imagine, like, are you quite welcomed with open arms, or are the Europeans quite surprised to find this this young Irish girl that can go and compete on their own soil? Have you ever had any sort of like negative race experiences, or are they nearly always sort of super friendly?
They've always been really friendly. I do remember, like, at the end of the final Italian race, I've got some lovely friends I've made out there, you know, just through racing and things, and they were racing as well, and they said, like, so have you you know, kept going home in between races, or have you been out this whole time? And I think they're sort of wondering, like, why are you still here? Like, don't you have things going on like back home? But we didn't really have a lot of fell races on here last year. I know there was some ultra trails going ahead and that sort of thing, but fell races weren't going ahead as much. So it was, I think I was quite lucky to kind of.
I love that. Have you got a passport? Do you think it's time I could EasyJet? There's one tonight. Let's get you on that.
Do they have more interesting prizes in Europe? I'm sure that you can get like a big block of cheese or a ham or something like that, while we get a bottle of beer and a little cup or something.
Yeah, you get massive cheeses and various other things. It's like, I think the kind of the prizes tend to be a lot bigger, say, in Europe than in fell running. I think fell running prides itself on being quite a humble sport and really low key, and not that, you know, the European version isn't humble or anything, but they like making a big deal about their races, and they like trying to attract all the best runners to their race and showcasing the local area as well. So they'll have big prizes, they'll have announcers, they'll have, like, the day before the race, they'll have a big ceremony, and after the race they'll have a big party, and at least, you know, pre-COVID they would. So it's just cool, the differences.
How's your Italian?
Oh, molto bene, grazie. I've been working on it. I just love Italy so much. I'd really love, I've been working on Italian. That's been one of my lockdown projects.
Because I live in France, and so I do a lot of races over in France as well. And one thing I always quite enjoy, if I come back to England to do a race, I'm like, I don't have to think of any French at checkpoints when I'm really tired. The end of races, it's so nice just to be able to in English rather than having to try and speak in French. So what about this year? How are you going to top that? Was like unexpectedly probably a really super year last year. What's the plans for this year?
I wouldn't say I have plans as such. I suppose I have different, like I would say I have kind of like maybe ideal world, what might happen. And that would be being able to do the World Cup again, because it's just always such a fantastic series of races. And I'd really like to be able to just go out in our van and kind of stay out for the World Cup races and travel around a bit. But I'm just not, after last year, I guess a lot of people are the same. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, even though things are looking up. But like I think the fellow running champs here are looking like they're going to go ahead. And that would be really just brilliant to kind of, I think at least 3 of the races are in the Lake District, and then there's some cool other ones as well. So that would be, equally fun to just be able to do something. I think we're all at that point where you kind of, you'll do anything.
I'd like to talk about coaching, if that's okay. I know you have your own coaching business, but are you self-coached, or do you have a coach yourself?
Yeah, I do have a coach. Robbie Simpson, who's really good marathon runner and mountain runner. So I approached Robbie almost a year ago now, which was kind of, it was in May of the first lockdown, and I'd had an injury that that was kind of cleared up, and it was lovely weather that May, wasn't it? So I had a load of time on my hands, and I kind of caught myself sort of overtraining and kind of just wanting to make up for lost time from the injury, and it was just so sunny. I was just like, I can't just sit inside. It's so lovely, and I could kind of tell I was doing too much, and so I thought, I think I really need just a kind of objective pair of eyes, and someone who has obviously a whole background, whole nother background to me, can bring kind of some fresh sessions to my training and that kind of thing. So it's been really positive. I really, it's like being on a team rather than just being, one person.
When you see he brings a fresh pair of eyes, then will he kind of give you like track kind of like a classic track workouts and stuff like that, or is it pretty much hit the fells or?
Yeah, a real mix of things. I think that's kind of one of the big differences between mountain running and fell running in the UK as well, is that you can have some really fast races with either, bits of road and cobble path or just really hard packed trail. And you really need to train that speed. So I've been doing a mix of like one faster, flatter session a week, usually, and one kind of hillier session. Yeah.
And is that, you've got, I suppose, is Ambleside got those facilities? Is it kind of local track?
Yeah. I like to think we've got a very Kenyan track. It's like, not that I know what Kenyan tracks look like, but it's sort of like more of a hard packed gravel. And it's about 320 meters. And it gets like big puddles on the corners when it rains. So it's sort of like you always end and you've just got mud all down your face from the person in front of you by the end of the session. But it's great for, when we can get back to doing group sessions. They're actually really good fun. We usually have one of those once a week.
And would you have do you have a kind of a training partner that you kind of lean on quite often, or is it just quite a complete mix?
Yeah, I've got a few. Scout Adkin is one. We do a lot of our sessions together. My friend Louise Mercer is another. And back when we were allowed to train with more than one person last summer, we were doing some quite fun ones where we'd run to the ferry at Bonus and then get the ferry across Lake Windermere.
Oh, fantastic.
Some really good flat trails on the west side of the lake. So we'd do it out there and then get the ferry home again, and that was just such a really fun Wednesday sort of tradition that we had. So I'm hoping to be able to do that again soon.
When you said we run to the ferry, I thought you were going to say then we pick up local tourists and we race them. And I really enjoy making them all run with me as fast as I can. I'm
curious, if you are on the fells and you haven't got company, do you listen to music or another podcast or our podcast or anything like that when you just, it's not really a distraction because you're kind of spoiled with the scenery, but yeah, just curious for our listeners if there's any content that they might want to check out.
To be honest, I've been listening to Harry Potter in Italian. That's been my
I wasn't
number
expecting
one.
that.
So I can tell you how to say cauldron and wand and muggle in Italian.
So useful. Exactly. That next race.
Yeah. But if I'm road running, I do like to have music in. If I'm in the fells, I usually won't have anything. Or if it's kind of a sloggy run, like if it's a wet day and I'm kind of dragging myself out the door to just get it done, I'll usually take like a language audiobook or something like that. But just, I think from working and coaching, which I do love, but I sort of kind of take that as a mental break from thinking about the science side of things, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm just curious about nutrition. There's so many different approaches to this. You've got your Damien Hall, who's kind of a vegan athlete, a plant-based athlete, and you've got your John Kelly, who seems to be a carbohydrate, sugar-driven athlete. Yourself, any kind of preference that you aim for?
I'm vegetarian, and I have been since I was 19. And apart from that, my main kind of rule of thumb is to look at protein intake and make sure that I'm getting enough at all 3 meals. So I think for a while there, I was just getting like probably most of my protein at dinner time. And I started being a lot more cognizant of sort of protein intake at breakfast, especially, and I usually have skyr with breakfast, and then like eggs or something at lunch, and then dinner we tend to have something that's got quite a lot of protein anyway. But that's kind of my main focus. I think your body's kind of limited in how much protein it can process at once, so you can't really just get your full intake at dinner time, say. I
have a question for you, Sarah, that I was saying before we started recording that I was a super fan of yours on Instagram, and I loved your pictures and your content. But something that I really admire is the fact that you're really, really fast on the flat. 15:36 5K PB, 40, is it? And,
40.
God, it's even worse than I thought. And then 33 something for 10K.
Yeah.
But you can also run like so strong up the hills as well. How do you maintain that? How have you sort of transferred that speed into the strength at the hills? Is there particular sessions that you do, or have you just found that naturally that speed has transferred into the hills? Because I know for a lot of us, that's incredible speed, but then you've also managed to develop the strength in the hills, which is like the ultimate combination, and you must be very few athletes can actually do that. How do you think you successfully managed to do that?
I think I probably got it wrong for a good while, which was I would do cross country in the winter, and it really wasn't what I needed to be focusing on over the winter, because the speed, relatively speaking at least, was my forte in mountain running. And I think part of that was that I hadn't fully decided. I knew mountain running was my passion, but I suppose I didn't want to leave cross country behind in a way. And I think I got to the point where, I just wasn't as competitive on the climbs, and I just thought I really I need to commit to this if I'm going to really be where I want to be with it. So I started spending basically as much of my winter as possible fell running. And I still do the one faster session a week, but just using winter to really focus on what I needed to get better at. I really didn't find that my speed transferred to the climbs. I could be super fit, relative to myself on the flat, and I still wouldn't necessarily be able to get up a hill very well. Unless I really put a lot of time into the climbs, and especially at easy pace. I think, you can do as many hill rep sessions as you like, but it's really more about the accumulated time at easy pace more than anything else out on the hills, if that's something you're looking to get better at.
So there's no secret formula. It's just working on your weakness year after year after year until it becomes your strength.
Yeah, and I think as well, recognizing that the things that you perceive as your weaknesses are just things that you haven't spent as much time on. For a long time, I felt like I was naturally a bad descender, and I'm still not going to go bragging about my descending anytime soon. But, you know, when I sat back and thought, well, how much practice have I actually put into this? It really, you know, hours wise, wasn't that many hours a year that I spent sort of, you know, working on descending. And I just thought, well, I need to stop kind of beating myself up as being a naturally bad descender, but I also need to start like training like I want to be a good descender. And so I think that's something that changed my training a bit, was not accepting that I'm naturally crap at something and just doing something about it.
I can so relate to that, because when we moved out to the Alps about 5 years ago, and I thought I was relatively strong and relatively good at like uphill, downhill running, and that my speed would naturally transfer. And then I went to my first race, and we got to the top of the first climb, and everybody just disappeared down the descent. And I was like, whoa, that's not how we descend. and yeah, I went through exactly the same process, and just the time, I'm like, well, I've never practiced it. You don't really need to in England practice your descending skills, because there's not that much. So it's great to hear you say that. What about an ultra? Is it an ultra running in your future, do you think, or are you happy with the sort of shorter lactate terrible stuff?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, no, I would like to do some ultras, and I had a go at the Azores. It was like a stage race. It was a 4-day stage race in November, and I actually DNF'd, which was like, kind of a very negative way to kind of end last year. I was definitely disappointed, but I'd gotten to the point where my leg kind of it didn't want to kind of pick itself up off the ground anymore. So I was just kind of hiking and I thought, I'm not racing, I'm not running anymore. I just need to kind of
live to fight another day.
Yeah, but I did enjoy up until day 4. I did enjoy it, and I'd love to try something like that again, like a stage race or just a longer race. My races are getting a bit longer, but I'd say like the max has been kind of 3.5 hours at the minute.
Has Paul put you off a bit, seeing the shape he's in? You're like, I'm not ready for that yet. I still want to be able to eat my ice cream at the end.
Yeah. I think he has and he hasn't. Like, there's some races he does where I'm like, oh, I don't really fancy that. But like, weirdly, one race that I do fancy, that kind of because Paul's done it, is the Tour de Jans, because it just looks like such an adventure, and got I think 6.5 days to complete this 200-mile loop, and you go through all these high alpine refuges and things like that. It just looks amazing, and I love supporting on it. So it's something I think, you could almost it is almost a long hike. Okay, guys, thank you.
We're going to talk about my next question is about the dogs. Let's talk about the dogs. Cool. You've got 2 dogs, and they go running with you, because Gary and I are big. We just love the dogs.
Yeah, they do. They come running, and they like I was saying, they're pretty much assimilated into lockdown lifestyles, so they just are used to having us around all the time now. And like Paul and I actually don't train together that much, so it means like, he'll go out and then I'll go out, so then they can go out both times, and and then he usually works outside as well, so he'll set up his desk out in the garden, so they can just be out like lounging, playing ball while Paul's working, so they're pretty much used to being outside most of the day. So I don't know what they'll think when like the world finally rights itself again and we have to go back to sort of going other places to work and do things.
Any dogs that listen to this podcast are going to be knocking on your door going, this sounds like the best life. Yeah. We want to come and live here.
We've got about 5 or 6 minutes left, so I'd like to talk about you're a coach too. You've got a coaching business with your partner, Paul. If you could tell our listeners a bit about that, what's your kind of day job like? Explain to our listeners a bit about the different services you offer as a coaching business.
So day to day, I usually have a couple of training programs to do, and just communicating with my athletes, and kind of excitingly, we've decided to start doing lactate testing. So that's something that we've kind of been working on during lockdown, is just getting ready to roll that out. And I'm quite excited just because I think it gives you kind of an extra sort of bit of insight into what's going on physiologically with runners. So, but yeah, mostly day to day, I'm sort of doing training programs and chatting to people and other bits and bobs like that.
I'm curious, so how would you do a lactate test?
Oh, well, we have.
Don't want to ask Gary. There we go, Gary. You don't need to know about it. You just get one done.
All right. Is it going to hurt?
Well, interesting story that involves a lactate meter and a 1-year-old dog is we kind of decided after a good bit of thought that we were going to invest in this machine so that we could do lactate testing. And about 3 days after it arrived, we went out for a meal with some friends and left the lactate meter at home and came back to like chewed bits of lactate meter everywhere.
Oh,
it was
my
just
goodness.
Like, and she was past the chewing phase, but she just like reverted for one night only and found this lactate meter, which kind of looks like a mobile phone.
Okay.
So I don't really know what she saw in it, but so we ended up buying 2 lactate meters in the end.
My goodness me. I think when we got our dog, they kind of prepped us, if the dog eats your shoe or your mobile phone, it's not your dog's fault. It's your fault for leaving it lying around. And out of curiosity, are you taking on clients currently? Have you got any space? And if you are, where can people find you?
Yeah, our website is missinglinkcoaching.co.uk, and we occasionally have a space come up. And yeah, Paul will do online rehab appointments with people, if you've got like running related pain, and then we'll be offering the lactate testing out of body rehab in Staveley before so long.
A bit of a curveball. Is there a fun fact that our listeners or generally people don't know about you? I was trying to think this about myself actually, but it was quite tricky. Yeah. Oh,
sure. Fun fact. Once I entered the Fairfield Horseshoe Race. So for anyone who doesn't know, it's obviously just a U-shaped fell running race that's about 10 miles, starts and finishes at Rydal Hall. And once I entered that in on a very foggy day, and instead of doing 10 miles in a loop, I just did 10 miles in a straight line, more or less, and ended up in sort of the complete wrong valley. And I ended up having to sort of knock on doors until I found someone who would let me ring my own mobile phone multiple times until Paul answered it and realized it was me. But I do always think back to that, just myself running along in kind of a race of one along a ridge, because everyone else had gone the other way. And what the walkers must have thought as I ran past.
Thinking, I'm doing so well. I am doing so well. I'm going downhill.
Exactly. Yeah, usually I get overtaken on descents. I must be really going well today. Yeah.
I'm flying. Thank you so much, Sarah, for giving up your time today for us on the podcast and sharing the mountain. We're going to see an influx of entries to mountain running fell races now that you've inspired everybody.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. And just from everyone at Run of the Hills, I would just like to wish you all the best for 2021.
Lovely. Nice to talk to you. See you soon.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on the podcast. I hope this inspired everybody to get out on the fells, run some fast time. If you don't follow Sarah on Instagram, it's definitely worth it to see the dogs, if nothing else, and the lovely area of the Lake District that she lives in. So thanks again, Sarah. Right, you've been testing a product that we were interested in.
Yeah, this came through Angie Andrews, actually. She's got a relationship with a company called Mimo, and now Mimo is it's like a personal gait analysis bit of tech, and you pop it in a sock and then you go and run for roughly say 200 meters on a flat surface, and then you don't have any shoes on. Sorry, it's barefoot on a flat surface.
Oh, okay.
And it reads your gait as you're running. You do with your left foot, then your right foot, and it gives you some feedback, and then advises you on the shoes that you should wear. So I've been testing that out this week, and it's been quite interesting. That the results have varied, and that could be to do with the places I've ran and stuff like that. So I'm going to go again tonight. There's a nice bit of flat. Part of the session I do tonight is down by the seaside, so I'll try it out there. It's kind of an uninterrupted straight, but it is consistently giving me on my right foot. I've got a 10% pronation, and on my left foot, I'm a 9% pronation, whatever that means. But what is interesting, this is why I need to kind of dig into it a bit more. It's gone from a 4-foot strike, which then it advises a neutral shoe. But the few runs I've done later on, I've moved to a heel strike. And then with the combination of the upper pronation and the heel strike, it's saying go for a supported shoe. So
the aim of it is to try and tell you what shoe to wear. It's the aim of it, yeah.
Yeah. So what I'll do, it'll give you your results, and then it will. There's an app you can kind of log into, and it will give you a list of shoes, and it's pretty current. There's some super duper the new Adidas carbon plate shoes and all this in there. It's not like old database. It's pretty good like that. And there's some of the interesting features actually on the app. You need to pay for these, but you get access to physios and Pilates classes and stuff like that, and other routines. So it generally seems like an interesting product. It's not just about the gait analysis, but I need to personally just kind of be satisfied.
Has it matched your trainers that you currently wear? Have you gone on it and gone?
Initially it did. Years and years ago, I had a gait analysis done in a shop, like the old school, and it did say on my left foot, on my right foot, I'm not too sure which one it was, but one I was a mild overpronator, and then the other one, again, a mild, but they never went outside of the realms where it would say I needed structure. So I've always used a neutral shoe since then. And I look at the wear on the shoe, and there's no obvious hot spots where I'm wearing away. So I've been quite satisfied with that. I'm generally, I'll do quite a high mileage week, and I'm not plagued by injuries that say possibly could come through wearing the wrong shoe. And initially then these results did suggest go for a neutral shoe again. But now that it's a couple of the results that have come back and said I'm on a heel strike, then it's saying structured. So I think sometimes when you're doing these tests, it's like you're not running naturally. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's like, probably you need to wear it like over a distance.
Yes. Well, I think it's like a 50-second run. But I'm going to try and move a bit quicker tonight to see if that opens up my kind of gait and stuff like that a bit more, and just see what it comes back. I'm really interested by it. But initially I thought, my goodness, these are so erratic, the results. But then when I emailed Craig from the company, and he pointed out, and rightly so, that it's pretty consistent, 10% and 9%. The inconsistency is the going from the front to the back. So we'll check that out and let you know. And then hopefully in the future sometime we'll get Craig on to show you what it's all about. Yeah, we thought we'd have a look at and catch up with our Strava club. We've got we have 174 members over on Strava, and they're doing some pretty impressive stuff. Have you checked it out, Eddie?
I'm just looking now. This week, Gary, you're up there. You're number 5 on the leaderboard.
Yeah.
I'm trailing. I'm trailing down with a low 4.9 miles at 64th place. I'm pretty happy down there. It's good.
It only logs the runs, though, doesn't it? So if you count it,
this is ridiculous. Strava's a multi-sport platform. If we could log in my skiing, I'd be. Last week you told me that there was some crazy mileage.
Oh my goodness, Tim Welsh. I'm not too sure where he's based. Actually, I should go into his profile, but he did 185.4 miles, which is.
He must have run a week.
He must have. I can only assume he was part of some. Well, I don't know, to be honest, but some kind of event or maybe a virtual challenge or something like that. But either way, 185.4 miles and 54 hours and 45 minutes and 52 seconds of total running time. So that. Oh. Then we got a Louise Karen Isaacson, who's consistently at the top of the leaderboard or thereabouts. She did 120 miles with a day, 24 hours and 30 minutes of activity for the week. And Sarah Chap, 106 miles. Who'd have thought 106 miles didn't win?
Didn't make the leaderboard. Anyway, it's not about how many miles you run.
No.
More about maybe connecting with people. I like looking because I see people's comments on the Facebook group and on Instagram, and then you can see them on Strava and like, oh, what are they doing? What are they doing?
Yeah.
What are they doing? Them nice running. I'm very happy down in the where I am on the leaderboard. I don't.
Neil did good though. Neil over the climbing, as we are under the hills, I suppose, but we give the climbers a shout out. Only because I made it into the top 3. But Neil Robinson did.
If Strava's your thing, check us out.
Yeah.
Join up. Give us a shout out.
Neil Robinson made 11,844. Ian Oldham 9,826, and then myself just over 9,000. But yeah, check out Strava if you like that kind of thing.
Is that feet or meters?
That is feet.
Oh, I do that like for breakfast. Where am I on this board?
You need to switch your activities to runs. Just pretend your skis are runs.
Just switching my skis to.
I wonder if I can go in there actually and edit the details.
Here we go. Now I'd be a bit more interested into this. Let's talk about the competition. We need to get people. We believe we've made it slightly complicated.
It is a bit,
but we're going to carry on with it. Somebody somewhere is going to be good at this.
I've put a couple of examples up on our Facebook page, so check those out. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I was got in a YouTube wormhole of people's little 15 to 20 second videos, and there was one video there. My sister's really embarrassed me. It had about 3 million views, and literally it was 2 girls walking down the street giggling, and then one of them said, "You've really embarrassed me," and that was it. And it would like millions of people views. It went up for about 10 seconds. So the bar is quite low. You don't have to do just film a few seconds out on the trails. It could be
jumping in a puddle, sliding down a hill.
Puddle,
I wish I could have got my mates got me skiing down today when I had to lie down halfway down.
Sometimes people complain about heel slipping, so I did a little stop frame animation of how you should tie your laces if you want to reduce heel slippage in your shoes. But absolutely anything at all. So yeah, check it out and have a go at it.
What you got coming up this week, Gary?
I have
smashing out some more virtual. What distance is it this week?
I have actually. I've got a virtual marathon on Sunday, another marathon club event. So I'll be doing that on Sunday with a friend, Ray, again. So lots of coffee. I've said you can pick the route, but we need to run past a coffee shop.
Dream.
And tonight, oh my goodness.
Tonight. Oh no. Is it tonight?
3 times 15 minutes with a 90-second recovery.
Okay.
So it's over 2 mile. If you said 3 times 2 mile, I could kind of cope with that, but it's just 2.5 mile probably, something like that.
Okay.
So maybe I will do 2 mile.
No, 15 minutes. Be good. It's a long session, that. Make sure you're fueled for that.
Where we run, it may be a little bit short because it ends up being a bit of a dead end. So it may be like 14 minutes or something like that.
Now he starts the excuses. We start with where he's running, and now he's going to talk about the wind in a second.
I've already sussed the wind out. We've got two on our backs, one in our front. It's a northerly day, apparently.
I love it.
And then
I've got quite a similar one tomorrow. I've got 6 times 8 minute at 10% on the treadmill, obviously, because there's snow's everywhere. With 2 minutes jog, sweat. I call it the sweat break because literally I have to towel off, dry, sip of water, get back on the treadmill. I don't like, because it's not fast. It's grinding, that sort of session.
Yeah.
It's just the mental of getting into it when you start it and it's 0 and you're going to be climbing like. That's probably going to be 1,000 meters, I reckon.
Oh my goodness.
Depending how fast I go on the up. But I know like this, so mentally that's hard to stop. But I've been doing those all winter, different variations on those. And I just feel that the difference from where I started is amazing. And I started doing about 30 minutes worth of the 10% running. And now I go a whole hour worth of it. And I'm like, 4 a good half a mile, 3/4 mile per hour quicker.
Oh, great.
On it. So the improvement is massive. And I'm sure both the physical and the mental side of it, when I'm eventually races here start again, that strength. But I find it hard, and it will be hard because I've had 2 days skiing in heavy snow. Yeah. My little legs are going to be.
So assuming, when the snow's gone, how many, say, quality sessions like that would you do a week?
2. Always now 2. Yeah. 3 just don't have enough recovery. If you're putting in a long run too, I like to do
two of those, then a long run as well.
Yeah, I would do 2. So I do a hill one and then I do a speed one. And a long run, probably a couple of long runs. I'd probably do like a medium long run and a long run in the real middle of like a big training box. 3 sessions I haven't got the recovery, and I like the sessions, but I also love just going out for like 4 or 5 hours in the mountain. Like, to me, I'm like, I like the quality, but I'm also all about heading up the hill and having energy to do that too. So
I think it's
2 I found. And also I do a bit on the bike. So I do another session. No, I forget that. I do 3 hours on the bike a week. So I do 1 session a week, hard session a week on the bike as well, where I do like seated hill sprints or something, break the pedal cranks.
You're not bashed up after that, though, are you?
And I mean, it's really, when you're doing it, that's another one when my husband comes around the corner and goes, "You're right. You're right." But I can get off that and feel tired, but the next day it's nothing like doing a 3 by 15 minutes.
It gets a bit easier next week. I think it starts doing like, say, a 10 minutes and then the 5 by 3s. So you do, and then it's like a 10-minute sandwich. So you do a 10-minute, then 5 by 3, then a 10-minute at the end.
Oh, you'll fly through that. You'll fly through that. I reckon it, though I do think as well, like these longer sessions, there's like 15, when you go back to the shorter stuff, you're like, so easy. And you could just go that little bit faster because you're like, I can hold that for 15 minutes.
But this the funny thing is, tonight, it's kind of filling me with dread. What the pace suggests, say you go back to the 10K that I did last week, it's roughly the same pace, but that was a consistent, I think it was like just under 40 minutes. I did
funny that, isn't it?
Yeah. But now the 3 times 15 is 45 minutes, but it's kind of, I'm panicking about it. But if I was in a race and they said you could stop every 15 minutes for 90 seconds and have a rest, I'd be like, fantastic.
Fantastic.
So it's funny psychology. So fingers crossed. We'll give it a go. Justin, my Tuesday night training partner, he's going to be with me. He's good. He's quicker than me naturally. So it's quite a good session for us both.
It's great to have company. Right, in a minute, I'm going to have to go soon, Gary. I am interviewing the marvelous, as she calls herself, the marvelous Mimi Anderson. Can't wait. I'm quite good mates with Mimi. We've done a few runs together, and we're often social media pals. And so I'm going to be talking to her all about her new book, which was out last week. So we're going to play that next week. For the podcast. And if you haven't read her book, either of her books now, she's got 2 books out. They're really, really good. She writes really well. She writes so from the heart. Just, she's that sort of person, and you feel like you've really been there. And
she's always been a good guest. I've listened to her quite a few times on other podcasts when she's been like running across America and stuff like that. Some massive events. So
she spins a good jump. She's barking mad. She is crazy, but I love that. Yeah. I love that.
So that was episode 29. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you all have a great weekend and a week of running. My name's Gary Thwaites.
I'm Eddie Sutton, and let's run to the hills.